If you want talk, games, and fun all rolled into one, well, you've come to the right place. This is The Game Show, where host Bradley Clarke and his special guests talk about the world of television game and competition shows. But Bradley's guests aren't here to just talk. They came to play a game as well. What will today's topic be? What game does Bradley have planned? There's only one way to find out.
It's time to start the show.
You heard the man. Welcome to The Game Show. And here's your host, the Bradster himself, Bradley Clarke.
That theme song really gets my heart pumping. Thank you so much, Austin Angelo, and welcome everybody to another exciting episode of The Game Show, the talk show, all about the world of television game and competition shows. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster. And over the years of hosting The Game Show, I have been super excited every time I get to speak with someone that is associated with a specific show that defines my childhood. Like when I interviewed Joe Baldessare and Bill Bartek, aka Team Guido from Season 1 of The Amazing Race. Or when I had the privilege of chatting with Phil Moore, the host of Nick Arcade. Or the time Todd Newton joined me as my special guest, and we got to talk about Whammy, the all-new Press Your Luck. However, if there is one show that truly unleashes my inner 12-year-old self anytime I get to speak with an individual associated with it, that show would be American Gladiators. The original American Gladiators series is, without question, the greatest athletic competition show in the history of television. For 7 seasons from 1989 to 1996, everyday Americans tested their strength, quickness, agility, and overall athleticism against some of the greatest competitors one can go up against, including Nitro, Zap, Saber, Diamond, Turbo, and Jazz. On 2 previous episodes of The Game Show, I had the honor of featuring a gladiator as my special guest. For episode number 31, I welcomed on one of the fiercest female athletes to ever grace Gladiator Arena, Ice Ice Baby herself, Lori Fetrick, aka Ice. And on episode number 52, the big man was on the phone because I chatted with the always formidable Tower of Power, Steve Henneberry, aka Tower. So I hope you figured out by now that a gladiator is going to be the guest on this episode of The Game Show, my 68th. He was one of the most popular gladiators throughout the entire run of the original American Gladiators series. And that's because he is the only gladiator to compete on each of the show's 7 seasons. He gave 110% during every event. From Hang Tough.
Like I said, the Laser promise you'll never see me lose play.
Up now against Laser, young James Fancheer.
Ready!
James on his way here in a mid-air ballet. Look at Laser swing. He skips a ring. Wow, that had to hurt in reaching out for James with his legs. Laser inadvertently hit him in the face. Quickly asked James if he was all right.
We'll see how strong he is.
Whoa! When Laser decides it's over, it's over. Little blood trickling from Fancheer's nose. Laser quick to point out it was just an accident, unintentional.
Didn't mean to kick him in the face.
To the Joust.
The man with the plan on the Gladiator stand, it's Laser.
Come on, baby.
And up first for the men is Jim Schreiner. Jim's had a chance to practice with our close combat drill instructor, but Laser really dynamic with that pugil stick in his hand. Here we go, Laser wailing away. Laser's only problem sometimes, Lisa, he gets too aggressive.
Jim was waiting for his moment. He got it for a minute.
Schreiner has to get up and make an attempt to fight. Laser really wailing away.
What a
everything he's got. 5 seconds. Schreiner gonna go for the draw. And he gets it.
To the Conquer Ring.
Again, Kevin with the wrestling background, co-captain of his Indiana University wrestling team. But he's tying up with a bad hombre in there. 5 seconds to go.
Kevin with a good technique. Laser with all the strength. A great reverse by Laser. Bails over Kevin's head to avoid the takedown. Laser demonstrating his many skills in the Conquer Ring, showing once again he's not afraid to throw his body in order to win.
You don't want to let those guys get close in that Conquer Ring, do you?
No way. I tell you, these are such great competitors. When they're in that Conquer Ring, they get a hold of you. You're going to go out, so you got to be moving, be fast, and just kick some butt.
But those weren't the only events he excelled at. This gladiator was a powerhouse during Powerball, a hot shot during Assault, a high flyer during Swingshot, and a colossal crasher during Atmosphere. He's strong, speedy, and super competitive. 3 words that could definitely describe me, but also 3 words that can more importantly describe my special guest. As one of the biggest super fans of American Gladiators one could ever meet, it is such an honor to welcome onto the game show Laser from the original American Gladiators series, Jim Starr. Jim, thank you so much for joining me today.
Absolutely. I'm proud that all those great names you gave me fit my profile, so thank you so very much.
Well, that intro was 30 years in the making, and I know you've been introduced plenty of times over the years, so I wanted to make this introduction for you as unique and special as I could.
Yeah, you sure are. And 30 years in the making is for sure. And we are doing a 6 to 8 part documentary series with Netflix. And the premise of the documentary is, where are they now? And to your point, it was 30 years ago. We started filming in 1989 and the show ended 7 years later. So yeah, it's in the making, 30 years. And I look at my crazy life and go, wow, that was 30 years ago. Incredible. And that was really before cell phones. We had pagers back then. You get a page and then you'd have to find a payphone, right? So it really took off. It was grassroots marketing. Sammy Goldwyn, who owned the show at the time, never really did any marketing. And the only marketing that really came was word of mouth and us as gladiators going out and doing autograph sessions throughout the entire U.S. and globally, really. And it just picked up. And, you know, if this show would have happened today and became as popular as it was in the 90s, wow, it would just be a phenomenon, even though it is still today, as there are other countries that picked up their own version of Gladiators. So it's pretty cool how it transitioned itself before social media and became a household brand. It's pretty neat. And if you recall, NBC came out with the second version of American Gladiators. The show bombed. And the show bombed because they tried to make it too glitzy. They tried to make it too Hollywoodish, especially having Hulk Hogan. I have nothing against him, but we had Mike Adamle and Larry Zonka as hosts, and the show was authentic. It was real. Even though we wore those goofy costumes, you saw people that were authentic, that had their own sort of personalities. And then you had everyday weekend warriors that were tough athletes, male and females, across the board. And so it's unfortunate that NBC didn't involve any of the ex-gladiators, even though we tried to get involved as cameo appearances or hosts, or a few of us wanted to compete on their version of the Gladiators, and they wouldn't have anything to do with it. And they found out the hard way that it wasn't the original American Gladiators that people loved and watched. But we're here today, and Bradley, we're here to answer all your questions.
Well, Jim, I certainly have plenty of questions to ask you, and we are going to chat all about your 7 years as Laser on American Gladiators, and then later for the game of the day, you'll get a chance to prove that you excel with your brain just as well as you excel with your brawn when you play an American Gladiators-themed trivia game.
Oh, that's awesome. All right.
So, Laser, the host is ready. Is the Gladiator ready?
Gladiators ready. Let's do it.
Well, referee Larry Thompson just blew the whistle, so let's start our trip down Gladiator memory lane. So being the Gladiator superfan that I am, I know the backstory of how your agent at the time first told you about auditioning for American Gladiators back in 1989, but there is still one part of the story that I have a question about. I know that you and Dan Clark, aka Nitro, knew each other from your time playing professional football with the Los Angeles Rams, and Nitro was a Gladiator in the first half of Season 1, which aired in the fall of 1989, while you debuted as a gladiator in the second half of season 1 in early 1990. Brad fact. So did you audition with Nitro prior to the first half of season 1 filming, and the producers decided to debut you when the show started filming the second half of season 1 in January of 1990 instead? Or did you audition after the first half of season 1 already aired, and the show was auditioning again to add new gladiators for the second half of season 1?
Boy, your fact checking is spot on. I mean, there's nothing I could argue on that one, but you are absolutely right. So in one season, there's usually around 26 episodes. They did the first half of the season, 13 episodes in late 1989. And at that time, they had one of the gladiators by the name of Malibu, and they decided to replace him, and they stopped production. And now it's January 1990, and they had tryouts again looking for another American Gladiator to replace Malibu. So Nitro was already on the show for 13 episodes. They had a tryout, and I went for the tryout where Dan Clarke, who's Nitro, we had the same commercial agent. And he said, "Hey, Jim, the Gladiators are going to do another tryout. You want to do it?" And I said, "Absolutely." And I tried out, and they casted me as the next American Gladiator. And that's how that transpired.
Did Dan give you any helpful hints for when you did audition to become a gladiator, or any information about the individual events played on the show to give you a leg up during your audition?
No, here's what happened. So Dan and I, Nitro, we both played for the LA Rams, and that's where I met Dan, and we became best friends. We became roommates. We were just having the times of our lives from 87, 88, and then 89. And then unfortunately, we had a falling out, as best friends sometimes do, even though we're still great friends today. We had a falling out. So as I mentioned earlier, we had the same commercial agent, but I was unaware of the original first tryout. And so I was never informed of that tryout. And so, unfortunately, we weren't in speaking terms when I did try out until I made the show. And obviously, we made amends once I became one of the original gladiators.
I know that you actually named yourself Laser based on your quickness, but by calling yourself Laser, did that put any pressure on yourself to show off your speed in events like Powerball, Breakthrough and Conquer, and The Wall?
No, that's a great question. But no, that never crossed my mind. The only thing that crossed my mind was just the way I grew up playing sports. I always wanted to be the best of the best, the meanest, the toughest. At the end of the day, having fans and or more so myself looking at what I did, and did I do the best job that I could possibly do? And that's really what it came down to. Even though the name was synonymous with being fast and quick and on target, I never thought of that name to be synonymous with me, Jim Starr, the athlete. I just wanted to be the best of the best.
Well, I must say, Jim, even though you weren't thinking about it, your quickness definitely showed during all of the events.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So the first shooting day for the second half of season 1 was on January 9th, 1990, and there were 4 gladiators, Nitro, Zap, Gemini, and Lace, who returned to the show from the first half of season 1. Brad fact. Prior to the start of filming, did the returning gladiators give you any tips and tricks regarding how to successfully play each of the events? And did the gladiators all sit down and come up with any overall strategies for specific events that you would use throughout the season?
Yeah, all your questions are spot on. They didn't. And even though the gladiators were a team and we were friends outside of the studio, I think just as an athlete, you're an athlete, right? I mean, if you're on a football team in college or pros, other members of that team are not asking you, are you a good player? And they're giving you pointers like a coach, even though we strategically got together before, let's say, Powerball, right? So we would have a plan of attack for the 3 gladiators against the 2 contenders. But no, we never sat down and strategically came up with a game plan, nor did the other gladiators give me any pointers. And when they came out with that second set, it was all new to me. But being an athlete, you're just going to go out there and try to do the best you can.
Speaking of the events, because your NFL days got cut short due to an injury during your first professional game, when you were the gladiator during the breakthrough portion of Breakthrough and Conquer, was it exciting for you because you got to show off to all of America and yourself how great of a player you could have been had you not injured yourself?
It really was. You know, you got a contender with a 15-yard head start, and the width of that field when we were playing where they could juke you and make some moves and or bull rush right over you, even though they were supposed to make a move on the Gladiator so no one was really seriously injured. Because you got to remember, we didn't have football helmets and things like that. So you're tackling a guy at full steam. But it was one of those events where you wanted to shine because, especially being an ex-football player and being a linebacker, you better be on your game to make that hit. So there was a little bit of pressure on that end, just knowing that you played football and you're one-on-one with another ball carrier.
Welcome back to Gladiator Arena. We are ready now for Breakthrough and Conquer, our event that's part football, part wrestling. Eric Montestori with a 7-point lead over Greg Petrie.
There's some of Greg's football background. Unfortunately, I think he was a linebacker.
Unfortunate because in Breakthrough, Greg will have to act like a running back. This man, Laser, will be the linebacker, and you can see his record undefeated in Breakthrough. Turbo will man the Conquer ring. Chance for a contender to pick up 6 points, 3 if they're successful in Breakthrough, 3 if they're successful in Conquer. Look at that face of determination. Wow.
Little Mike Singletary there.
See what kind of moves Greg has.
I think he was a linebacker, Mike. He ran straight into the middle of the clutches of Laser, and Laser laid him down.
No moves, no finesse. In Breakthrough, there he is, Laser. Well, Captain Richard McCormick is all set to mix it up with our 2 Gladiators. That should not be a problem since he's used to mixing it up. Pretty good boxer back in the Marine Corps. This time, however, he's got a football tucked underneath his right arm, and he's got to get by Laser. Now let's see if he has a move or 2 in his arsenal. Telegraphed it a little bit. Laser looked at his belt buckle, took him down easy on a 3-yard line. He never got close.
Not only does he bring him down, once he has him down, he drives him into the ground.
Puts a little mustard on it.
Since you mentioned equipment, I might as well ask you this question now. Season 4 was the first season in which the Gladiators were required to wear helmets when playing Powerball and when playing the Conquer portion of Breakthrough and Conquer. Brad fact. So I'm curious, Jim, did the Gladiators make a request to the producers that they wear helmets during these physical events? Because it always shocked me that you didn't wear helmets during Powerball and the Conquer Circle during the previous seasons.
I don't recall how that transpired, but it was a great decision, whoever came up with it. I think they started to realize there was a lot of injuries on the show. They never portrayed that part of the filming. You know, if someone got hurt, the announcers may say something about it, but they never really wanted to focus in on all the serious. I mean, there were some serious injuries on that show, but yeah, they just didn't really focus on the injuries as much as they did just the playing.
Yeah, throughout the 7 seasons, the 2 main Gladiator injuries that the show focused heavily on were Malibu's injury during Human Cannonball during the first half of Season 1, and Turbo's injury when he dislocated his knee during a game of Powerball in Season 3.
Yeah, and the one with Malibu, to me, that was nothing. I mean, he just got hit hard.
Welcome back to Universal Studios Hollywood and the American Gladiators. Now, last time we saw our Gladiator Malibu, he was flying through the air from a tremendous kick delivered by Brian Hudson. And the last time he landed, we weren't sure where he wound up.
Hey, Malibu, after you got drilled by that human cannonball, I thought, hey, there is no way this guy is going to live to play another day. You're alive, you're well. What happened? Did you go to the hospital? Did you get x-rays?
Well, dude, it's like this. I saw this guy coming, and I took the most excellent hit of my life. The next thing I knew, I was on the beach, taking in some cosmic rays, getting healed by Mother Nature, taking a little brewski, holding on a beautiful babe, and I'm fine today.
So no hospital, no doctors, just Mother Nature, huh?
Oh, I'm a child of Mother Nature. What do you expect?
Malibu, you are truly amazing. He took a licking, and he is still ticking.
Sweet.
But that injury that happened to Galen Tomlinson, Turbo, that was a horrific, and I'm talking horrific injury, and how he came back. And he's a tough dude, man, that Galen. I think he was probably, between he and I'm not blowing smoke and putting down other Gladiators, but as far as a true athlete, Turbo was a stud. He was an athlete, and he was one of only the few handful of Gladiators that never played professional football. He was just a stud and mentally tough. But that injury that he sustained, I don't know how he came back the next year to play. They took bone out of his hip, and it was a Joe Theismann injury is what it came down to. And I was even surprised he came back after a year of therapy to even be able to be a Gladiator.
I'll take the middle, you take the end. I'll go left. You go left, I'll go right. Same thing.
All right, remember them stretching out, trying to get it in. Cut them off.
Shut up. Shut up. Come on.
Shut up. Let's go.
Gemini, Turbo, and Laser discussing strategy as they're set for the next event in this men's preliminary round. It's Powerball. And teamwork is most important, not just strength and quickness, the coordination between the three men. You know, Laser, Turbo, and Gemini relish each event here on the American Gladiators, but Powerball is the one they really love to compete in the most. I think it gives them the best chance to determine just what these contenders are made of. Ted and Tommy tied at 2 after 2 events.
I had a chance to speak with Tommy about the Gladiators, and he said his least favorite gladiator is any gladiator over 200 pounds.
That covers about it.
That covers everybody, that's right.
And as you look at the scoring breakdown, we will tell you that Powerball is brought to you by Nintendo, makers of Super NES. Now you're playing with power, super power.
Ready!
Referee Larry Thompson gets his 45-second match underway, and quickly Turbo goes to work on Ted Pappenhagen. Hello.
Gemini hurling one of the goals to get at one of the contenders.
Tommy Knox rudely thrown out of bounds.
Oh, Mike, there's no two ways about it. Our contenders get roughed up in this game.
Our Gladiators like to preach teamwork, but there Turbo going one-on-one with Tommy Knox. Tommy scores. Turbo drives him out of bounds, but he's down, clutching his left knee. As Ted Pappenhagen scores on Gemini. Referee Larry Thompson blowing the whistle. Turbo in a lot of pain right now. Let's hope he's all right.
Mike, we've got a replay up. Watch Turbo's left leg right here. He hyperextends it. How serious, we don't know.
Turbo is off the canvas, being taken back to the locker room by his two buddies, Laser and Gemini. Larry, he put an awful lot of torque on that left leg.
Well, knees were only made to bend one way, and here his bends a little the other. As we get a freeze frame, you're going to see his left leg right there.
Turbo being attended to in the Gladiator locker room, and Larry, I know you talked to him earlier about that. He does have a shaky knee to begin with.
Well, he's had some problems in the past with that left knee. Let's hope it's just a hyperextension, and he'll be back with it shortly.
Well, the Gladiators, with 2.5 seconds left to go, have elected to go one-on-one with these two men. And that is it. Time has expired. So Tommy Knox and Ted Pappenhagen wind up tied in Powerball, each a goal apiece. Each goal worth 2 points. What's that old saying? It's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Well, Turbo plays Powerball only one way. He is relentless, Larry.
I know Ted and Tommy are smiling after all of this, but I'm going to tell you what, this reminds me of the old days in the NFL when defensive linemen get a hold of those running backs, and they just decide where they're going to put them down and how they're going to put them down as Turbo mashes Ted's head into the mat.
That, of course, before Turbo sustained the injury.
No, man, that's far from being all right, but...
Well, obviously Turbo's got a lot of pain, but that gives you some idea of just how intense this guy is.
And it's only fitting that you just mentioned Joe Theismann because he was the host of American Gladiators for the first half of Season 1, alongside his co-host, who would then become the main host beginning in the second half of Season 1, Mike Adamle. Brad fact!
That's right, yeah. And he was a heck of a host as well.
6'1", 225, lightning fast, Laser! We're back, round 2. For the Gladiators, he is aggressive in everything he does, whether it's the tug-of-war, Whiplash, the Joust, or this event. Hang tough. Sometimes Laser gets a little too aggressive, but he always gives it his best shot. The man with the plan, Laser, always an expert marksman in this event. It's assault. Laser, a giant inside that conquer ring.
They had Todd Christensen, who unfortunately passed. He was the tight end for the Raiders, and he was the host. And then we had Mike Adamle and Larry Zonka. So we had some real studs on that show as far as hosts.
Speaking of Larry Zonka, when he joined the show as co-host at the start of season 2, as someone like yourself who played football in college and in the NFL, was it exciting for you that Larry was going to be the new co-host and potentially interviewing you throughout the season?
I was nervous. To be honest, when I was a little kid, all of us would emulate these different football players while we were playing pickup football, and all of us would be someone, and I'd always want to be Larry Zonka. It was just a cool introduction when I finally met Larry, who is a massive human being and's got a set of hands like a chop saw. I mean, it's just massive, thick fingers and just a good guy, too. He and I connected. He's an outdoors guy and outdoorsman and loves to hunt. He's just a good guy, just a really good human being.
Season 2 saw the introduction of 4 new gladiators: Ice, Turbo, Diamond, and Thunder. Thunder was played by Billy Smith, and unfortunately, in August of 2021, Billy sadly passed away at the age of 56. Thunder was known for his long blonde hair and always seemed to have such a fun time when he competed. So Jim, what was it like being Billy's Gladiator teammate, and do you have any fond memories of Billy from his time on the show?
What a stud. What a specimen, to be honest. You talk about a guy that at 310 to 315 to 20 pounds, that was so ripped and so agile and athletic for a guy that massive. He had that long flowing Thor-like hair and very smart. I'm in the nutrition world. He was off the chart smart when it came to dedication and his life in terms of learning about dietary supplements and nutrition and exercise physiology. The guy was off the charts, but what a great guy. And my heart still aches that Billy passed and left this world. It hit me hard because we had a special relationship. Even though I didn't keep in touch with Billy the last 10, 15 years, I didn't realize he was going through as much as he was going through in terms of his health and injuries and things like that he acquired through the years of bodybuilding and powerlifting and the Gladiators. But all I can say about Billy is what a magnificent human being. And it's emotional for me to talk about because I've been intimately texting and calling his wife when Billy passed, and she had been sharing some intimate personal photos of Billy and what he went through. And it's just nice to know that she felt comfortable. It feels comfortable sharing information about Billy, and it made me connect to him even more. So, yeah, I miss Billy and wish he was still alive today because he was a great human being.
The last new personnel member to American Gladiators introduced in Season 2 was the new referee, Larry Thompson, who replaced Bob McElwee. Now, it seemed like the Gladiators didn't really care for Bob McElwee as a referee during the second half of Season 1, especially when tackling was not allowed anymore during Powerball. And there was one specific game of Powerball where you got thrown out for tackling during the men's round, and both Zap and Blaze got thrown out during the women's round. Brad fact.
As you look at Laser, Nitro, and Titan, ready to do some serious business with Lucian Anderson and Carl Allen. And it'll be interesting to watch Carl and that sore ankle of his.
This is definitely an event where it's going to have to take its toll. He's going to have to make some cuts on a very hard surface. And right there, Mike, it appears that he is limping just a little bit.
Laser sends him to the turf.
Not buying that 360 move, is he? Now it's Lucian's turn. He can't hold on to the ball.
And it's one thing to play with a bad ankle. It's quite another to have a double team at the same time.
And Lucian was able to take advantage of that, Mike, as he cuts to the side and is able to get it in. What a shot Laser just delivered there. Up top. This is not an easy game, needless to say. Good move there by Lucian. A little stiff arm and arm over. He was able to get a point.
So is Carl. As Lucian gets in flying again, and referee Bob McElwee has blown the whistle. Again, some of the new rules here in the quarterfinals. You are not allowed to tackle, not allowed to hold. Laser has been thrown out.
That was what we call the clothesline. Definitely, Mike. Right there, he comes up on top and throws Lucian down. Tough shot there.
So Lucian is credited with the goal. Referee Bob McElwee about to resume play. 8 seconds to go.
And Carl Allen gets in one more point, and you know, on the scoreboard, that may not appear like much, but the way he's gimping around, that's going to be of great satisfaction to him down the line. It's a long competition, Mike.
So did the Gladiators insist to the producers at the end of Season 1 to get a new referee for Season 2?
No, never did. We never stepped on the producer or director's side of the table there, so we left that one alone. That came from Sammy Goldwyn, but he was a good referee. We just felt like he was a little hard on the rule section of every game based on the Gladiators versus the Contenders. So I don't think he ever gave us a break. And how they decided, they, being the production company, decided to go with Larry Thompson. I'm not even sure, but what a great move that was. He became the pivoting role of Gladiators ready.
Contenders ready! Gladiators ready! Here they go! Contenders ready! Gladiators ready!
Referee Larry Thompson gets the match underway. We're set to go. Larry Thompson is poised at the base of the pyramid.
Contenders ready! Gladiators ready!
What a great referee and another awesome human being that we had on our show. And I'm glad that they incorporated Larry's personality, his explanations of what happened. They made him the central point of each game, which was important because he had a personality and he mattered to the show and he mattered to us. And I'm glad the production company, Samuel Goldwyn, decided to implement him a little bit more heavily into each episode.
I agree 100%. And one of the things I've always admired about Larry Thompson's commitment to American Gladiators is when he got hired, Larry broke down every single event and made specific rules for all of them for both the Gladiators and the Contenders. So prior to the season, did Larry Thompson sit down with all the Gladiators and go through the do's and do nots for each event?
He did. Before we started, we had a 3 to 5 day tryout with the Gladiators, getting to know the events, getting to know the studio and the layout. And he would sit down, and we had long meetings on this, and he would sit down only with the Gladiators, and then he would do the Contenders when they finally flew in and did their stuff. Because we never fraternized with the Contenders. We never even knew who they were until we finally saw them on the introductions on the stage. But he would go over every event with us, making sure that we understood the rules and making sure that we weren't doing something illegal for injuries.
And there were a few times that you heard Larry Thompson say, disqualification laser to the head, specifically during games of Powerball.
Time running out for Johnny Vineyard as the men get set to play Powerball. After this, the eliminator to come. Johnny right now trails Mark Ortega 29-12. Mark will be in the gray, Johnny in the blue, and they'll have to deal with Thunder, Laser, and Tower. In Powerball, a contender can earn 3 points for goals scored in the outer cylinders, 5 points for a goal scored in the center cylinder. And Powerball is brought to you by Nintendo, makers of Super NES. Now you're playing with power, super power. Again, 45 seconds, score as many times as you can. Both men score right off the bat. Mark, another terrific move, but he overshot the cylinder.
Johnny picks one up in the corner. Gets another.
Again. Boys, he got the quicks. Referee Larry Thompson blowing the whistle. He's given Laser the heave-ho.
Laser going up too high, gets up around in the throat area. As a result, Larry Thompson does his job.
Swift, silent, dangerous. This laser is ready to strike. Powerball is next.
45 seconds to time limit. Larry Thompson begins the match, and Tony Bettendorf with the early quicks. Albert Gray, a couple of spin moves, beats that double team. And Tony turned it on to score 5 in the center cylinder. Here's Albert going for the 5. 30 seconds on the clock now. Tony running scot-free for that center cylinder.
Disqualification, Laser to the head. Laser too high, disqualification.
Larry Thompson, our referee, disqualifying Laser for getting a bit overzealous with that forearm. Laser, I don't know.
Laser must have hit himself because he's the one bleeding.
He's the guy who's bleeding, exactly right, but Laser tossed for excessive use of the forearm, at least above the head.
Our 3 Gladiators, it'll be Saber, Turbo, and Laser.
Shutout City, Powerball.
Good deal. 45 seconds to time limit, last chance to score points before the eliminator. Again, today's winner will take home $2,500 and a chance to qualify for our Tournament of Champions. Here we go. Jorge's quick. They may not count that when he stepped out of bounds, however. Jorge getting wrapped up by Turbo. Game judge Bob Wusatich calling a halt to the proceedings. Laser not happy. He may have gone a little high on Dave. Here's the call.
We have a disqualification called by the game judge. Takedown by the neck by Laser. Game will continue 34 seconds. 2 Gladiators, 2 contenders.
So Laser sent to the sidelines. It'll be 2-on-2.
Yeah, just a few. It was hard not to do that because as a linebacker, there was something about I just wanted to go to that area to tackle and really take your head off. I mean, that's how I grew up. And I just remember my junior high and high school coaches just like fly to the ball, take their head off. And that just stuck with me. And that's what I try to do on almost every event.
The entirety of Season 2 was filmed over the course of 2 weeks, from June to July of 1990. Brad fact: since you only filmed 13 episodes the first time around, I'm sure it had to be exhausting on the body filming 26 episodes in such a short amount of time, correct?
Yeah, we would film anywhere between 26 episodes to 32 episodes, depending on the season. And we would end up filming all of those episodes, depending each year, within 2 to 3 weeks. So we would do 2 episodes a day, always back to back. And we would do 3 days on of filming. So there's 2 shows every day. So there's 6 episodes. And then we'd have 1 day off. Maybe we'd film 2 more days with 1 day off, 4 days with 1 day off. So the accumulation of film days would be, let's say, 26 episodes in 2 weeks of filming over a course of 3 weeks. And it was a lot of work. And I'm not talking work. Most people love to work and work hard, but it was so difficult in terms of the injuries because we would be there for very, very long filming days. And it would take the crew a very long time to set up each equipment. So that's why they did 2 shows back to back, and they'd have different contenders because they would have to bring in all the equipment, the crew, set up the equipment, get all the cameras ready. And that would take a couple hours just to set up each different event, especially like assault or hang tough, where there was a lot of equipment and safety features. So, yeah, it was very long days. They were grueling, and they were grueling because we would be injured. And the only way you were going to get paid is you had to be on that show, and you would just have to suck it up and get ready for the next event, the next episode, and keep grinding. That's all it was.
Moving on to Season 3, which is where I consider American Gladiators to have transitioned from a cheeky sports show into a sports competition phenomenon. The show moves from filming at Universal Studios Hollywood to now filming at CBS Studio Center in Studio City, Los Angeles. So was this a big deal for you and the other Gladiators? Because the show went from being filmed in the studios at a theme park to being filmed in a TV and movie studio with the initials CBS in the name.
Yeah, it was huge. It just felt like, wow, we've hit the mother lode here. We're stars. I don't think we ever felt that way, even though we're on TV and people recognized us. We had actors and actresses coming by the studio to watch us film. It was very cool. And I think you hit the nail on the head that Season 3 really put us on the map, where the uniforms became not these glitzy, glamorous Hollywood-type costumes. It became an athletic event with costumes, and they allowed us to be who we were. Before, we kind of had a persona to follow. Hey, Laser, you're fast, and during your interviews, you should act more like this. Well, Season 3, they finally let us be who we were as human beings and let us have our character come out and shine during the interviews and be who we really were, and not cast us as Hollywoodish type figures. So you hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly when it changed. You know, I never even thought about that, Bradley. It was Season 3. I never even thought about that until right now, that's really the transition of where Gladiators took off because of the costumes, the new studio. They allowed us to be who we were and not some fictional characters. We were who we were. And the interviews were real. They didn't have a script for us to follow. They just interviewed us, and whatever came out of our mouth came out of our mouth. So even though you had to ham it up a little bit for the TV, it was all real.
Yeah, and Season 3 incorporated elements that I think the show should have used more of in seasons to come, such as going into the contender and gladiator locker rooms to see them warm up before events. And Mike Adamle had a halftime report with Larry Zonka sometimes doing backstage interviews. And if there was an injury, we would get to see either a contender or gladiator getting taped up or treated by the trainers in the trainer's room. So I feel like season 3, with the show's new sports broadcast-like elements being implemented, was when the idea of a real sporting competition TV series was fulfilled.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I have done more interviews in the last 30 years. You have done your due diligence. You know more about the show than I've had anyone ever know about our television show. And I'm being honest with you. You're hitting every point that I haven't thought of and even been asked questions. So kudos to you knowing the show inside and out. Way to go.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, Jim. I truly appreciate it. I take a lot of pride in knowing as much as I do about American Gladiators, and I'm glad I could be a small part in sharing the history of the show that truly created what we now know as reality television.
We are considered the first reality TV show that hit the market, and we kind of set that stage for other shows like it, like Ninja Warrior, which I love. I love watching that show. But yeah, it's pretty cool that they were able to figure that out at a time when reality TV had not even hit the marketplace until American Gladiators.
And I'll give you another Brad fact, Jim. In season 3, like we talked about, the show introduced new uniforms with the Gladiators' names on them. But in season 4, the design of the uniforms were changed a little bit. I don't know if a slightly different material was used, or they just wanted to brighten up the red, white, and blue colors on the uniforms, but this would be the look of the uniforms from seasons 4 through 7. And U.S. Laser was the only gladiator to have the same uniform design for all 4 of these seasons. Brad fact!
I did not know that. I still have my gladiator uniform. Even though they were tight and they showed things that they shouldn't have shown, mine was so comfortable. And we had costume designers. And I remember Mike Adamley's wife, she was on the show and she was in costumes and all of that. I just remember I just wanted that same fit because it was just perfect. You know, most of these guys, they get done with a tackle or whatever and then have to pull their shorts down and readjust their whole spandex. Mine was perfect. It just fit great. And that's probably why you didn't see a gladiator costume change for Laser for the 4 seasons, because I just loved it.
Since we're already on season 4, let's continue talking about this interesting season, which featured many new gladiators, since a number of the previous gladiators left at the end of season 3 due to a conflict in regards to getting compensation for American Gladiators merchandising sales. Now, season 4 introduced a new Lace, as Marissa Pere was replaced by Natalie Lennox. And I've always wondered, was Marissa Pere supposed to be on season 4 as Lace, but then left the show last minute? However, since they still already had the costume with the name Lace on it, Natalie Lennox just took the name Lace?
I don't know why Marissa left the show, but I found it odd that the company, Sammy Lodwin, ended up using Lace with another human being. But I think they felt she had some name recognition. And we have, I think, a lot of pushback. Like, that's not the Lace that we know, people that were watching the show previously before the new one came out. So it was kind of odd that they would duplicate a name with a different person. That was odd to me. And the second Lace, I still remember her. I mean, she was beautiful. She wasn't that great of an all-around athlete like Ice was or Zap. And they eventually ended up getting rid of her and replacing her with someone else.
At the beginning of season 4, you had the honor of being named Gladiator Team Captain. So how did the idea of naming a Gladiator Team Captain come about? And did you ever ask if you can have a letter C placed on your uniform to denote that you were the Gladiator Team Captain?
No. Again, the company, they thought just like football teams or basketball, they'd have a team captain. And I was voted team captain by my peers, the fellow gladiators, male and female, which was just an honor. I thought, how cool. I never expected it, never asked for it. Maybe I earned those honors, and I was very proud to hold that title.
This season also saw an additional event be played on each episode, meaning the contenders faced 7 events plus the Eliminator for a total of 8 events, instead of the previous 7 total events. Brad fact! Was this additional event to the lineup exciting for the Gladiators because they got to compete some more, or was it ultimately tiring because the days were longer?
I don't know. Probably both. It made the day longer. I remember we used to get done around 9:30 at night. We would start early in the morning, very early. All of us knew the schedule, right? So we knew what events we were on for that day. And when you saw the evening show, if you were on the Eliminator, where none of us competed in the Eliminator, we either had to hold the bags or something. We had to stay. And that extra process to set up that event was massive. It would take at least over 2.5 hours for the crew to set that up. So we would end up staying till about midnight, and all the other gladiators got to go home. They were released knowing that they didn't have to stick around for the eliminator. So that was the only downfall on that side of it.
And you can tell when a tape day went long because sometimes, so the first event, you'd see a full audience, but by the time the eliminator came around, half or even more than half of the audience seats would be empty.
That's for sure. I don't know how some of those audiences stayed there for, each show would last 6 hours. But that's why they started at Universal Studios, because they would bring in the tours and it was up to them if they wanted to go and watch the American Gladiators. And then they would bring this busload of people in for 2-hour time frames for each 2 hours. And then they'd release those people, a new bus would come in, a new crowd would come. So it was kind of cool. But yeah, at the end of the evening, you wouldn't see too many people in the stands, that's for sure.
Season 5 of the show was nicknamed Fifth Year High Gear, as Gladiator Arena as a whole, the theme song and music cues, as well as events like Assault and The Wall, were updated aesthetically.
Today, the season premiere of American Gladiators. A karate instructor, a Texas cheerleader, a world-class decathlete, an Olympic kayaker. Yeah, it's our all-new 5th year, and time to get into high gear.
Time to let the games begin, huh?
I'm Mike Adamley, and welcome to the season premiere of American Gladiators. You know, this is our 5th year, and we are definitely going to shift into high gear. There's a new high-tech look here in Gladiator Arena. We'll showcase 4 brand new events, including the most demanding eliminator ever. And also our team of Gladiators has added some extra firepower to its already talented lineup.
Did you and the Gladiators ever meet with the producers at the end of season 4 and offer suggestions on how to improve the show moving forward?
Never. At least I didn't. If other Gladiators talked to the producers, I was unaware of it. But I don't even think we even thought about engaging ourselves with the producers and directors and the crew on how to make the show better. We just left that up to them. They were the experts. They came back with the different events every year. I don't ever recall being part of that planning session or in the off season, like what would be the next cool event that we could plan. And nor were we ever asked. That's one of the things that still bothers most of us today, that they never incorporated us as the heroes and the people that people tuned into were the Gladiators. They kind of wanted to make us think that we were expendable in every facet of the business. And they never wanted us to think that we were bigger than the show.
You mentioned the word heroes, and being that American Gladiators was a family-friendly show with a large portion of the audience being kids, the Gladiators were looked up to as heroes to many kids in America, which is something that I think the NBC revival missed, because the Gladiators were now viewed as villainous figures. So Jim, was being a hero to many kids something you took pride in as a Gladiator?
I loved it. That's true what you said. They tried to make them villains, like these badass gladiators. Well, that's not what it was. We were American Gladiators. We were the red, white, and blue, right? And we were the heroes, and we were the stopping force to bring in these contenders that were stud athletes. And they tried to change that on the NBC version of it. I still remember going back to Montana, where I was born and raised, and my mom was a first grade teacher, and I came in and did a personal appearance for the entire school, and especially for my mom's class. And it was just so touching to think that these kids looked up to gladiators like we were bigger than life heroes. And it's really cool to think like that back in time, these kids looked up to us as heroes. And I never thought of it at that time, but looking back on it now, it really was touching. It really was.
Season 5 saw the introduction of 4 brand new events: Pyramid, Whiplash, Tug of War, and the Gauntlet. So I'm curious, Jim, what was your initial reaction to these 4 new events?
Oh, I loved them. The only one that I really didn't like was Tug of War. That was a tough event. It was just difficult, straining. It was tough, but the dog bone, the whiplash, the pyramid, the gauntlet, especially the gauntlet. We had all the gladiators. It was the only event that we had all gladiators on deck to compete. And we were all in that line on the gauntlet. I just loved it. It really brought that team spirit together. And you did not want one of those contenders to get by you. But I loved it. I loved that one-on-one. I loved the whiplash, the dog bone, tug of war. I could do away with that. But the pyramid, that was exciting to be able to tackle a guy 20 feet up on these steps and be able to tackle them and take them all the way down to the bottom of the mat. It just was exciting.
Gladiators ready! Laser and Saber ready to pounce. Here they go.
And we take these things real personal. I was trying to get Saber to wager like a steak dinner or something. He said, hey, I give you my word. My word is worth its weight in gold.
Laser, who is undefeated in this event, went for the high tackle on Pat Chismazia. He's going to have to hurry. Here comes Pat. Oh! What a comeback there by Laser. He was all the way at the bottom of the pyramid. Pat had a free run, but Laser with some great quicks closed in. I don't know how he did that. That was unreal. Look out, Pat. Back to the bottom he goes. Here goes O'Leary. Can he escape Saber's grasp? Look how close he is to that center. All he has to do is, oh, man. Woo! You gotta love it, Nitro. That was great. Great stuff. How did they do it? Laser, 14-0 coming in at Pyramid. Looked like he was on his way to his first defeat. Pat Chismazia, look at him. He can't believe it. He had the 10, and I guess he just didn't realize how quick Laser is.
I was still here when you were over here. That's why I'm a gladiator. He's a contender.
Well, Pat, what went through your mind? Laser went high. He went flying. You looked like you had a free run. What was going through your head?
I thought Laser was above me, and I didn't bother to look up until it was too late, and then he was right on me, and then off I went.
Laser, your undefeated record still intact now, 15-0 in Pyramid. Hey, best Pyramid ever?
I think it was one of the best pyramids I've had in 7 years on this show. Great pyramid, buddy.
And another Brad fact for you, Jim. The Gauntlet was only the second event in American Gladiators history to feature all of the gladiators competing together at the same time. The first ever event to feature all the gladiators competing at the same time was Powerball during the first half of season 1, where there were only 3 male gladiators and 3 female gladiators featured on the show. And all 3 competed together during their respective Powerball matches. Brad fact!
That's right. You're right. Yeah, you're right. That's very true. I never thought about that, but yeah.
Season 5 featured one of the most memorable contenders in American Gladiators history enter Gladiator Arena. And his name is Wesley Two Scoops Berry.
It's not exactly Murderer's Row, but trust me, it is no Lover's Lane either. The Gladiators look relatively tame now, but in just a few moments, they will do everything in their power to light up our contenders in one of our 4 new events, the Gauntlet. Object here, very straightforward. You can see the 5 zones the Gladiators will be in. Contenders have to get by all 5 Gladiators to score. Gladiators must stay inside those blue zones. If the contender can get through in 25 seconds or less, they'll pick up 5 points. If they can make it through in 20 seconds or less, it's worth 10.
Coming at you. Coming at you.
Wesley Berry turned in one of our faster 40-yard dash times in our contender tryouts. Can he use speed here against our Gladiators?
Let's see how quick Wesley Berry is. 2 scoops is getting 2 scoops from Saber. He's already spent 10 seconds inside the gauntlet. Hawks pinning him up. Can he get by Laser? And 2 scoops does it in under 20 seconds. Picking up 10 more points.
And he almost didn't get the 10. Watch Tower here nearly taking Wesley over the barrier.
I know you played cornerback in high school. Does this bring back some fond memories?
Brings back a lot of memories. Scoop to the right, scoop to the left, scoop underneath, and scoop to the finish line for the 10 points.
Wesley relied a lot on his quickness during many of the events, and the Gladiators always seemed to have a love-hate relationship with him. So what do you remember most about competing against Wesley Berry?
I think he was one of the better athletes. There was Rico Constantino and Lucian Anderson, who was a stud. These guys stick out in my mind just because they were great athletes, and had some one-on-one confrontations with them, just myself personally, and I respected those gentlemen. But yeah, Two Scoops was just a stud. He wasn't a big guy at all. He was just an athlete. I mean, a pure motor. And quite the character. I mean, he had a personality that would go beyond anything you could imagine. And if I'm not mistaken, because you know more about the show than I do, when he was done for his season, they invited him back to be kind of that coach with the other contenders for the following year. He was just a stud. Wasn't menacing by any means, but he was a true athlete with a lot of athleticism.
Yeah, so Wesley won the Grand Championship in Season 5, and then he was brought back for the Battle of the Best in Season 6, to compete against Season 3 Grand Champion Mark Ortega and Season 4 Grand Champion Cliff Miller. And Two Scoops ended up winning the Battle of the Best. Then Wesley became the contender coach for Season 7, as well as competed against Season 6 Grand Champion Kyler Storm in the second Battle of the Best competition, and Two Scoops ended up winning yet again. But yes, you're correct, Jim. Wesley was brought on to be the contenders coach for Season 7. Brad fact!
Right, that's it, yeah. Boy, you got this down. Yeah, all those guys, I mean, Cliff and Ortega, all those guys were studs, man. They were great athletes.
And who could ever forget the Season 3 Grand Championship Eliminator featuring Mark Ortega and Joe Bam Bam Morrow?
The men are waiting in the wings, and after 6 very grueling events of a very even matchup, Joe Morrow leads Mark Ortega by 8 points, good for a 4-second head start. Now, both men are outstanding in this event, the Eliminator, but Mark is the man who has to come from behind. Again, the winner becomes our American Gladiator Grand Champion. Larry's with Mark at the start line.
Mark, I've been watching you compete, you old football player. Let me tell you something, 4 seconds isn't an eternity. I'd be worried if you were on my heels.
You're absolutely right, Larry. The war isn't over. There's one more battle that needs to be won. That's the Eliminator.
You look like you're ready. We'll be watching. Good luck.
Thanks.
And you know, Larry, there's a cauldron of bubbling, fiery competitiveness underneath that cool exterior of Mark's. I'll tell you who's really nervous. The 2 fiancés, Diane Duran, Mark's fiancée, looks like she's a candidate for some antacid tablets. Melissa Burnham, well, she's been here every step of the way for her Bam Bam. Talking to Mark moments before the Eliminator began, as we look at our Gladiators, he was talking about all the bumps and bruises he sustained, and that nothing was going to stop him from his mission of crossing the finish line first. And Larry, you know Bam Bam feels the same way. As a matter of fact, moments ago, this was Bam Bam in the trainer's room icing a very tender left elbow. You can see he's got that rubberized guard on it right now. Again, he's got the man with the head start. This is for all the marbles. The American Gladiator Grand Championship on the line. Joe Morrow up the treadmill. Here comes Mark. Now Joe pumping his, for all he's worth, across to the handbike. Can Mark make up the difference? Joe blazing across that spinning cylinder. Mark's right there.
Mark still believes he's in the thick of the hunt. Joe's up on the top. On the platform, he's away on the line. He's opening up even a greater lead.
Bam Bam shaking that blonde mane of his. He can sense victory, but he's struggling on that first wall. Mark Ortega could make up the lead as Joe stumbles between wall 1 and wall 2. Here comes Ortega. This could be close. Joe down the straightaway. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is a photo finish. This is a photo finish.
We got a red call.
The initial signal is that Mark Ortega nipped Joe Morrow at the finish line. At the moment, Mark's family going absolutely wild. They have spilled over to the arena floor. Our referee, Larry Thompson, has got another tough decision to make. They will review this on videotape. Oh, is that close? Now keep in mind, Joe Morrow had a 4-second head start. This is the final straightaway over the final wall. Bam Bam still has the lead. Mark Ortega never gave up.
Now watch the finish line. Not the yellow tape, but the finish line. The white stripe below the yellow tape. Mark Ortega's left arm extended over it. What's the call going to be? Where was Bam Bam in relationship to that arm? We're still waiting for the decision. Here's another look, and here's the ruling.
In a very, very close race by a matter of a few scant pinches, the winner, Mark Ortega, grand champion.
Bam Bam. You're bringing back a lot of memories that I have forgotten about in 30 years. That'll help with our documentary coming up with Netflix. I appreciate some of the memory recall.
Well, you've been kind enough to share some of your American Gladiators knowledge with me, so it's only fair that I return the favor and share some of my American Gladiators knowledge with you.
Thank you.
Season 5 also saw the introduction of a brand new male gladiator, Hawk, played by Lee Rayerman, and sadly we lost Lee on March 1st, 2016. Hawk was so charismatic and always a fan favorite for exciting the crowd and bringing so much energy to the show. So Jim, what do you remember most about your time on the show with Lee, and do you have any favorite moments with Hawk?
All I can say is F-U-N, fun. His personality was as big can be, and wasn't the best athlete, right? But his demeanor on the interviews and his repertoire with the crowd and the kids and his one-liners, and he had a master's in, I think it was accounting, just a smart guy, very intelligent. And just he added so much more to us as the show American Gladiators. Just a good guy, just a great interviewee. He had great interviews. He was spot on. He was funny. He was intelligent, just a great guy. And the way Lee passed with his hip surgery, and he had a blood clot, and it was just sad. And he was the epitome of health, right? As far as I know, he never took any drugs. He ran every day. He cared about what he put into his body as far as nutrition. And he was just a good guy. And unfortunately, he succumbed to a blood clot. And I can't remember what happened exactly, but he passed. And very sad. I still remember going to his funeral. Basically, it was a gathering down at the Manhattan Beach where he grew up. And it's a sad deal. Lee and I were great friends. It was another guy that I kept in touch with frequently, and I no longer had my buddy to call, and so it was pretty sad.
And just like with Billy, the entire Gladiator community truly misses Lee, a.k.a. Hawk. At the end of Season 6, an international Gladiators competition was held at the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham, England, home of the British version of Gladiators.
They came from the four corners of the earth. The mightiest gladiators from Great Britain, Finland, America, and Russia. Together for the first time in history, united to accept the challenge of the international champion contenders in a battle that would decide who is the best in the world.
Gladiators are Joust, Lightning, and Saber, Terminator and Hawk, Flash, Trojan and Ice, Saracen, Jet and Dynamite, Hunter and Spartak, Nightshade and the Wolf. And now, please welcome your international presenters, Mike Adamley and John Fashanu.
From the National Indoor Arena in Birmingham, England, welcome to International Gladiators. Along with English football star John Fashanu, I'm Mike Adamley. Glad you could join us for a very special occasion.
Despite Nitro, Hawk, and Sabre competing during the first year, and Hawk and Sabre competing during the second International Gladiators competition, Jim, you never traveled across the pond, and I was wondering why you never went over to compete in the International Gladiators competition.
That's a good question. I have no idea either. I couldn't understand it. Didn't understand it. Never will. Wasn't invited. Wasn't asked. No one talked to me about it. All I know is they had these other gladiators, and that was it. It still bothers me today. I don't even know why they didn't invite me. I don't have a clue. I don't even know why.
We've now come to season 7, which unfortunately was the final season of the original American Gladiators series. Now, the opening titles for season 7 were changed to introduce the Gladiators in an edgier and sexier way than the viewers had previously seen, which included most of the male gladiators flexing their bodies shirtless, and the female gladiators showcasing their bodies and muscles in a feminine way. So, Jim, do you remember why the season 7 opening titles were filmed in this edgier, sexier fashion?
I don't know why they did that. I think they realized that the gladiators, male and female, who became these icons of celebrityism, good bodies, good-looking males and females, and they kind of wanted to put a spin on that sexiness. I don't even know why they did that, but we were all for it. None of us asked any questions. We were just happy to be on the show, and we had a contrast. So, yeah, that was a little bizarre that they had us kind of take off our shirts. There was that one poster where we all had our shirts off, and we were wearing jeans, and I think they started to realize that people were tuning in, not because of the show itself, but people were tuning in because they had their favorite gladiator, or they had a favorite gladiator that the audience wanted to see their butts get kicked. But I think Sammy Golden, the producers, started to realize, oh, we got something going on here. Maybe these gladiators are more than just the gladiators. They are now part of the show.
As someone who has studied hosts for many years, I've always admired Mike Adamle as a host because his commentating and interviewing skills are some of the best in the business. And for me, he is the gold standard when it comes to athletic competition show hosts. Jim, what do you remember most about Mike Adamle's hosting skills from your 7 seasons on American Gladiators?
How smart he was and his recall. He knew this show better than anyone on the show, whether they were the producers, directors, cast, people that came up with the games. He knew that show. He knew the contenders. He knew their history. He would read a bio on a contender and never even had to refer back to it when he was in the booth or whatever. It all came from memory. Very smart. One of the most intelligent human beings as a host that I've ever been around. I'm not saying I've been around a lot of them, but he was one sharp character and just a good guy. He hung out with the contenders, got to know each one of them intimately, hung out with all the gladiators on the set, off the set, went to lunch, called us. I mean, Mike and I are still friends today, and we touch base with each other all the time via text or calling each other, and just a great human being.
For season 7, your friend and former gladiator Dan Nitro Clarke became Mike's new co-host. So was it weird for you and the rest of the gladiators to see Dan in a suit, for him to be interviewing you, and for you to be calling him Dan and not Nitro in front of the camera?
Yeah, that was different. He was this athlete, and we competed not only football together, but then at Gladiators, and all of a sudden now he's one of the hosts. So trying to take direction from the host, and he became really good at it. He had some great questions, so it was a little different, but trying to not make a big deal out of that in the back of your mind when you're going to be interviewed by your ex-Gladiator buddy who now became a host. It was an honor and a privilege, that's for sure, but it was a little different, and it took a few episodes to get used to that.
And now you got to call Dan by his actual name on camera and not have to refer to him as Nitro. But when you and the other gladiators weren't on camera, did you call each other by your actual names, or did you call each other by your gladiator names?
I guess it all depends. I would never call Nitro. I always call him Danny. Steve Henneberry was Tower. I'd call him Tower. It all depended on who the gladiator was, maybe how well I knew them. And based on their first name, I mean, I've always called Nitro Danny. I don't really call him Nitro. Steve Henneberry and I are still really good friends today. And when I call him, it's either Stevie or Tower. What's up, buddy? So it all depends on who you're speaking with, I guess.
One of the most memorable moments in American Gladiators history occurred in season 7, and it was a joust you had against contender Captain Richard McCormick. The captain ended up defeating you after he ducked during one of your hits, and you found yourself unbalanced and eventually off the jousting platform. However, Richard agreed to have a rematch with you for no points after you claimed that he technically didn't beat you. During the rematch, you actually ended up breaking your pugil stick, you were given another one, and then you broke that pugil stick during the rematch take 2. Brad fact. I've always been curious. After you broke the second pugil stick, did you ask for a third pugil stick so that you could fully complete the rematch?
Hell yeah, I would have went 3 or 4 more times.
Everybody knows the Marine Corps builds men, but wait till I get a hold of them in the Joust.
Well, a special moment here at Gladiator Arena. Laser getting the standing ovation and the chant from the crowd because it's his turn to joust.
The Laser actually called out these two gentlemen because these two guys are two guys from the Corps who have a lot of jousting experience.
This is it. Never been defeated on this. I'm still undefeated, and it's always going to be that way. Watch it perform.
Laser is our Marine. Now he's got a battle against a corporal and a captain. Nitro, you know it well. There's a special feeling the Gladiators have for one another, and it extends from the locker room all the way out to the playing surface. Everybody out here for Laser.
And one of the things they did is Laser likes to challenge the best. He's got a couple Corps guys who are experienced with the stick. He requested to fight these guys.
Captain Richard McCormick up first, 26 years old, 6'2", 175. A helicopter pilot, and Laser may send him flying, but the captain holding his ground. Look at Laser wail away, and he's off balance! Oh my goodness! Laser can't believe it.
I don't think the captain beat him. Laser beat himself. Sometimes he just loses that. That thing clicks in his mind. He attacks, and his attack took him right off the jousting platform.
Well, as you mentioned, every Marine worth his salt knows how to handle one of those pugil sticks.
You should have a re-challenge because you didn't beat me. Beautiful match.
You want to do it again?
Aggressive. Come on. Here's the man. You want to do it again? Here's the man. Let's go.
Laser, you want him?
Come on, brother.
You got him. Everybody wants to see this again. No points, just mano a mano.
Well, what's at stake here to me, Mike, is the Gladiators against the Corps. May the best of the jousting people in the world prevail here for the second time.
Richard McCormick has already got his 10 points. This is for pride. Watch it, watch it, watch it.
Get him another stick! Get him another stick!
Laser hit Captain Richard McCormick so hard he broke the tip of his pugil stick off, so they're going to give him another one.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go!
Let's do it again, this time for pride.
What's at stake here is the best jousting in the world, the Corps against the Gladiators.
Laser said he was lucky. I tell you, he's swinging so hard, his stick keeps breaking.
And Carla McCormick, Richard's wife, looks like she wants to get up there with Laser.
Laser actually breaks the stick right here on that first pop, comes back for a second pop, that's when it disembarks from the stick. I don't think Laser has yet realized that the stick is broken. Bam, hits him in the face again. Second rematch, he hits and breaks the stick on the back end.
Laser, I got the feeling that deep in your heart somewhere you're a Marine too.
Well,
at least the mentality anyway.
I think the mentality, I think all the Marines have a certain mentality. I think I got the haircut going, don't I? So, hey, get the sticks ready, and I'll see you maybe in the finals, and I'm going to put you down.
You are one tough guy, and I know everybody here that followed you to Gladiator Arena pulling for you. What makes the Marine and the Corps so tough? Why are you able to come into competitions like this and excel?
It's right here, and it's right here. We work as a team. Like I said, the Marine Corps, it's a David Goliath thing. Hey, we slay the giant every day. That's our job. We're out there to fight. We'll never give up.
And our country a little safer for it. Nice going, Richard. Laser, way to go, baby.
Unbelievable, right? And there's a highlight. You can find it on YouTube, and Nitro sets it up because he was the one that was hosting, and he talks about but the first time in Gladiator history where they had a redo over, because I don't think he beat me. I beat myself. I swung so hard I missed him, and then I just fell off the pedestal. And when they said, you want a rematch, I said, hell yeah, let's do it.
This is absolutely the best jousting sequence in Gladiator history. This guy was a captain in the Marines, and he knew how to handle a pugil stick.
A helicopter pilot, and Laser may send him flying, but the captain holding his ground. Look at Laser wail away, and he's off balance! Oh my goodness!
Whoa, wait, don't go anywhere. This is just the beginning. Laser was such a fierce competitor, he couldn't stand losing, and he would just eat away at him.
He attacks, and his attack took him right off the jousting platform.
Oh, and this guy celebrating just added insult to injury. I mean, look at Laser here. He's trying to digest the loss, and it's not computing in his head.
I have a re-challenge because you didn't beat me. Beautiful match.
You want to do it again?
Aggressive. Come on. Here's the man. You want to do it again? Here's the man. Let's go.
Laser, you want him?
Come on, brother.
You got him.
Then, for the first time, he let them do it again. That was a unique thing about American Gladiators. It was a perfect marriage between a sporting event and entertainment. And hats off to the captain for doing it again. He has my respect.
Well, what's at stake here to me, Mike, is the Gladiators against the core. May the best of the jousting people in the world prevail here for the second
Laser
time.
was a Duracell battery of gladiators. He has the distinction of doing more Gladiator episodes than any other Gladiator.
10 points. This is for Pride. Watch it, watch it, watch it.
Get him another stick. Get him another stick.
Laser hit Captain Richard McCormick so
Legendary
hard.
contender Two Scoops came on as a contender coach for this season because the fans loved him so much.
Baby, let's go. Let's go.
Let's do it again, this time for Pride.
What's at stake here is the best jousting in the world, the core against the Gladiators.
Laser was an animal. He had this switch that went off in his head, and when it went off, you never knew it was going to happen. It was kind of a blind rage. He would hit you first and ask questions later.
And Carla McCormick, Richard's wife, looks like she wants to get up there with Laser.
Laser actually breaks the stick right here on that first pop, comes back for a second pop, that's when it disembarks from the stick. I don't think Laser has yet realized that the stick is broken. Bam, hits him in the face again. Second rematch, he hits and breaks the stick on the back end.
Yes, this is definitely the best jousting sequence ever. If I were you, I would watch it over and over again.
It was the first time in all those episodes, you think about the Joust was on forever, and to break two pugil sticks over the same guy, the same gladiator, same contender, pretty remarkable because it just didn't happen. Another great athlete, and to be able to stand up there and take that punishment was just crazy in my mind, really crazy.
Were you disappointed that you didn't get the ultimate jousting rematch that you wanted in that moment? Or was breaking the two pugil sticks and hitting Richard McCormick as hard as you could satisfying enough for you?
I think I was all right with it. Breaking two pugil sticks and the guy's still standing there like a stud he is. And I was exhausted. I was tired. Would I have gone again and again? Yeah, absolutely. I never got beat on that joust, ever. No one just right out hit me in the head and hit me so hard that I fell off the joust. I was swinging so hard that I even lost my balance and got caught up in my own fury that I fell off. But no one ever beat me outright on that show, ever.
It's crunch time here at Gladiator Arena, our crunch time event where we put the accent on the physical, the joust, hand-to-hand combat, military-type pugil sticks, one-on-one encounter. Hit me with your best shot. First up, Vince Granger, coming on for the injured Bernie Miller. He draws Laser, and there's his record, folks. It speaks for itself. The man takes no prisoners. Laser wailing away at Vince Granger, looking for the opening. He's got it, and down Vince goes.
Laser with a little bit of the double whammy. Gets off balance a little early on, but then he comes across with a smashing right, followed with that overhand blow that sends Granger right off the joust platform. Ooh, what a way to go.
Now, Marty lost to Laser back in the second round, so a chance to earn a measure of revenge perhaps here.
Doc Marty's tall, he's got to get down. Oh, he's got Laser off. Oh, man, he was
Did you
close.
see how quick Laser recovered? Yeah. How does he do it?
Unbelievable. Laser was up on 1 foot. Just one push would have had him off, but Marty couldn't deliver it. Laser coming back from near disaster.
Laser, nothing like the personal satisfaction of one-on-one victory, huh?
Hey, it's the best feeling in the world, you know, the
The first one warmed me up and about lost my balance on the second one, but I came back and gave him a good uppercut. And hey, when I'm up here, nobody's gonna beat me. Nobody. Yeah.
Nice going, Laser. On to the men we go. Troy Jackson with the hefty lead on Ray Clarke. TJ up first, and he draws Laser. No easy assignment.
Troy with that very large lead, but he can't let it know. The Eliminator is only 2 events away.
On guard!
Laser wailing away, as is his style, right from the opening whistle.
Wow. Got him off balance, and it was over.
TJ perhaps a bit too aggressive, and watch how Laser kind of helps him off the platform. There's the loss of balance.
Down he goes.
And a look at Laser's impressive record in this event. Can he add one more? Ray Clarke about to find out. Ray with a wild shot. Oh, that's a good match. Ray has got Laser in a bit of trouble. Look at Laser. 1, 2, 20 seconds ago. Oh, man, that was.
There you go. Man.
Sometimes Laser is his own worst enemy. With his aggressiveness, he throws himself off balance. Sooner or later, he's going to get you, and he does. Ray Clarke in 23 seconds.
Laser, another phenomenal performance. You are not giving these guys any leeway.
No, you can't. It's early in the competition. You give these great competitors an inch, they'll take a mile. Well, today, I took that mile.
Certainly did.
Thanks.
Great job.
There's nothing faster than a laser beam. Nothing. I'm back.
So just to stand up there with Rich McCormick and be proud that we were both standing and he took a punishment, more power to all the contenders out there, and especially him.
Throughout Season 7, the Gladiators wore earpieces and microphones, meaning you could hear Mike and Dan commentating in the booth during each event. Plus, all the Gladiators could be heard grunting or taunting the contenders while competing. So Jim, did you like wearing the earpieces and microphones because it gave you more involvement in the show? Or was it more of a hindrance and distraction while competing during the events?
Yeah, I really didn't like it. It was a cool element as far as the show itself. I think it added value to the show. But personally, I didn't really like having the little earpieces because it took away from the concentration of the game.
At the end of the Season 7 Grand Championship episode, Mike Adamle said, "We'll see you again next year, we'll be back." However, there sadly ended up never being a Season 8 of American Gladiators. So Jim, when did you find out that the show had been canceled?
I had converted my garage into a workout facility because I was a personal trainer. And I remember I was in my garage working out and got a call that the show ended. And I don't recall if it was one of the Gladiators or a producer. I don't think it was, because we never heard from anyone from the show. We just heard it ended. And they filmed every year around late May to July. At some point, they started filming. And it was late spring when we found out that the show just ended. And the only thing that we recall and why it ended is Samuel Goldwyn, who had tons of movies and has a movie library in the 40s and 50s that were worth millions. I'm not sure. I think they were either losing money or they went bankrupt because they had a couple of picture deals that fell through the summer before that were not box office hits, and they lost their shorts on that. And I think they had to sell. And I think Chapter 11, they announced or something, and they sold Samuel Goldwyn to MGM. And then MGM decided not to pick us up and start filming again. And I think that's what happened. It just ended so quickly that we were just out of a job. No warning, no formal phone call. It was just, I believe, word of mouth that we heard that they weren't going to pick up the filming. And that was the end of the show. It ended quickly. And we were left holding the bag thinking, what are we going to do now? As an athlete, you don't think about leaving your position because of injuries or whatnot, but it did end quickly and without warning.
American Gladiators has allowed you to do some exciting things in your life, one of which was being a contestant on both the Ray Combs-hosted Family Feud back in 1993 and the Richard Dawson-hosted Family Feud when he returned to the show in 1994. Brad fact.
Welcome to Family Feud's Battle of the Sexes between the American Gladiators. Introducing the women. Zach. Chaz. Ice. Sky. Diamond. Ready for action. And their opponents, the men from American Gladiators. Hawk. Tower. Laser. Turbo. Saber. On your marks. Let the games begin on Family Feud's American Gladiator Special with the star of Family Feud, Ray Toad.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hello to the Gladiator men. Welcome to the Gladiator women. Welcome to the Family Feud. Two great teams ready to battle it out. We're calling it the Battle of the Sexes of the American Gladiators.
It's the American Gladiators on Family Feud in the Battle of the Sexes. Introducing the American Gladiator women. Sky. Ice. Zach. And Panther. For action. And their opponents, the American Gladiator men. Saber. Nitro. Laser. And Hawk. On your march. Let the games begin on Family Feud's American Gladiator Special with the star of Family Feud, Richard Joseph.
Three days left. Just take all the money home. All right? Here we go. We're on the board here. We got some money. Let's do it. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You got me into it. Thank you. Welcome to a very special feud. Day 4 of the Battle of the American Gladiators. We're cooking now. We're getting some money up there.
On one of the Ray Combs episodes, you were at the face-off podium during the bullseye rounds against Ice. And the $2,000 question was, would you rather hear a great symphony, a great poem, or great gossip? Now, Jim, you buzzed in first and said a great poem. But unfortunately, great gossip was the bullseye answer, which Ice ended up getting.
Ice against Laser with a $2,000 bank-building question. It is multiple choice. Would you rather hear a great symphony, a great poem, or great gossip? Up to you, Laser.
Great poem.
Do you think our 100 people said poem, number one? No. Ice. 100 people. Would you rather hear a great symphony, great poem, or great gossip?
Gossip.
Gossip over Bach? Joey $7,000 in our winner's bank.
I gotta ask, did your Gladiator teammates make fun of you a little for saying great poem over great gossip?
Oh, yeah. You feel like you don't have the smarts, right? I mean, geez, you're nervous enough. You got a big audience there staring at you, and then you got the Gladiators depending on your answer. So, yeah, I got some flack on that one, that's for sure.
Your Family Feud face-off moments didn't end there, Jim, because during the same episode's round 2 face-off, you once again went up against Ice, and the question was, finish this sentence. You're slower than... And you said, to everyone's disbelief, Moses.
The American Gladiator women, 58 points. The Gladiator men, 0. Time for another face-off with a double-valued question.
The women would love to play for the $15,000 in their bank, and the men would just like to stop them and take the $6 grand home in theirs. Point value doubled, top 5 answers on that board. We ask 100 people, finish this sentence. You're slower than... Ice?
Me.
You're slower than me. Is it up there? Finish this sentence. You're slower than...
Moses.
Slower than...
Okay.
I've never heard that.
It was almost as bad as mine.
What, slower than Moses?
It was almost as bad as mine, but hey.
Is it up there? It could be. You're slower than Moses. What does that mean?
Montana term.
We gave it a shot, didn't we?
All right, don't move. Don't move. Shh. Sky, you have a chance for the women. Finish this sentence. You're slower than...
Molasses.
Molasses. Sorry. It's a good try, but... Laser, we use Montana terms and Washington terms.
I always say Moses.
Good job, Sky.
You explain that you're slower than Moses is a Montana term, so I want to know if now, Jim, 30 years later, is you're slower than Moses still used a lot in Montana? And do you still use the term often?
I think it is. Slower than Moses. I mean, who doesn't say that? Slower than Moses. I think it's a Montana term. I don't know. I thought everybody used that term.
As far as I know, you're slower than Moses is not a common phrase here in New York. I know I've never used it, so I'm guessing it's probably just a Montana term.
Oh boy, that makes me laugh.
This is a question I've always wanted to know the answer to. Your Family Feud name tag for both the Ray Combs version and the Richard Dawson version read Lazer instead of Laser, despite your uniform clearly displaying laser spelled with an S. Jim, is there a reason why your name tags had laser spelled with a Z?
I'm not sure, but myself and Steve Henneberry, who was Tower, we both trademarked our name, and I trademarked it with a Z, and he did Tower of Power because American Gladiator, Samuel Goldwyn, owned in perpetuity our names, Laser, Ice, Nitro. So we could not go out and promote ourselves as American Gladiators, even though we helped promote the show, right? And more viewership. But they all wanted a piece of our pie that we got on our own tour and autograph sessions. So what Steve and I did, because we came up with a newsletter and all of this for kids, and we wanted to promote ourselves and obviously financially have some gain there, we trademarked our own names, and I trademarked it with a Z so I could go out as Laser from American Gladiators with no flack from Samuel Goldwyn, and that's what we did. And why it came up with a Z on that show, I'm not sure, but that's probably where it happened. A lot of us went out and did car shows throughout the country, like Peterson Publishing would do these massive car shows and different events, and we'd do autograph sessions. And so the way they would announce you is formerly known as Laser from American Gladiators. We had attorneys work on this. So the way to get around that, like Samuel Goldwyn couldn't come back and you got a statute of limitations or they were trying to get a piece of your pie, is you could say formerly known as Laser from American Gladiators, and or do what Steve and I did. We trademarked our names and went out and signed autographs with a Z instead of an S.
On the Richard Dawson version, the Gladiator women team had a team member named Panther who never appeared on the American Gladiators TV show. Do you remember if Panther was a gladiator on the American Gladiators tour and was just chosen to play Family Feud with Sky, Ice, and Zap because Siren and Jazz weren't available?
She was part of the tour, and that was Billy Smith, Thunder's girlfriend, and they became husband and wife. And I know she was on the tour, and she may have been competing in the dinner theater show in Florida. I can't recall, but I thought she was on a couple of the episodes on the regular TV show, but I could be mistaken.
No, she was never on the TV show. In fact, during Panther's Family Feud introduction, the show didn't have any individual footage of her, so they just showed a short clip of a game of women's Powerball. Brad fact!
Okay.
Well, Jim, we have reached my favorite portion of the game show, and for 7 years on American Gladiators, you did the best that you could do to prevent the contenders from earning points during each event that you competed in. Well, now it's your chance to become a contender per se, as you attempt to earn enough points needed to win this event. It's time for the game of the day.
Game of the day.
So, Jim, of course, every event played on American Gladiators is athletic-based. But being that I cannot send you a Joust pugil stick or the assault gun through the telephone so that we may compete against each other, Even though that would be super cool if it could happen and would make one of my Gladiator fantasies become a reality, I wanted to come up with a way to turn an American Gladiators event into an intellectual event. Well, I did just that. Jim, you competed in many games of Powerball throughout your 7 years on American Gladiators, but over 25 years after the final season of the original American Gladiators finished airing, you are about to compete in your first ever game of Mental Powerball. Mental Powerball. And here's how we play. For each round of Mental Powerball, you're going to have 75 seconds to score as many times as you can. However, you won't be using balls to score in either the outer cylinders worth 2 points or the center cylinder worth 3 points, but rather, you'll be using your American Gladiators knowledge to try and score either 2 or 3 points per trivia question. After I read each question in its entirety, you'll then say whether you want the question to be worth 2 points or 3 points. If you say 2 points, I'll give you 2 possible answers to the question, with one of them being the correct answer. If you say 3 points, you'll instead be given 3 possible answers to the question, making it a bit more difficult to choose the one correct answer. So basically, after hearing each question, you have to quickly decide how confident you are about knowing the answer and say either 2 points or 3 points, depending on how many answer choices you would like to be given. You'll play 4 rounds, with each round having its own category the questions will be based on, and after all 4 rounds are completed, in honor of the recent American Gladiators 30th anniversary, if you have accumulated a total of 30 points or more, you will be deemed a winner and prove that you have both strength and smarts. Those are all the rules. Now, Jim, I know that you're not in your laser spandex as of this moment, but are you ready to play the marquee event of American Gladiators with a trivia twist?
Let's do it.
Well, the host is ready! Gladiator is ready! Let's play Mental Powerball! Remember, Jim, you have 4 rounds to accumulate a total of at least 30 points in order to win. And let's begin the game with round 1. The category for this round's questions is the Gladiators. These are all questions about your former teammates, male and female, throughout your years on American Gladiators. 75 seconds is on the clock. Remember, after each question is read, Jim, say 2 points if you want 2 answer choices, or 3 points if you want 3 answer choices. Time will not start until I finish reading the first question. Good luck, Jim. In Season 3, this Gladiator replaced an injured Gold.
2 points.
Storm or Siren?
Siren.
Incorrect. Storm. Which Gladiator once arm wrestled Bob Eubanks on an episode of Card Sharks?
2 points.
Ice or Zap?
Zap.
Correct. He was known as the go-to Gladiator.
2 points.
Hawk or Turbo?
Turbo.
Incorrect. Hawk. He first appeared during the 1992 Grand Championship episode.
2 points.
Viper or Tower?
Viper.
Correct. Mark Tucker had this Gladiator name.
3 points.
Rebel, Atlas, or Havoc?
Rebel.
Correct. During the Season 4 Grand Championship, Elektra injured her nose competing in what event?
3 points.
Powerball, Hang Tough, or Human Cannonball?
Hang Tough.
Correct. How many new Gladiators, male and female, debuted at the start of Season 2?
3 points.
2, 4, or 6?
4.
Correct, and time is up. Very good.
Oh, yeah.
You got a total of 13 points for round 1, Jim. Congratulations.
Nice.
And with 17 points to go for a win, let's move on to round 2. And the category is the events. These are all questions about the events featured on American Gladiators.
Okay.
75 seconds on the clock. And once again, time is not going to start until I finish reading the first question, which is coming up right now. It's the number of scoring pods used during a game of Atmosphere.
3 points.
3, 4, or 5?
5.
Incorrect. 4. They were the colors of the snapback scoring markers.
2 points.
Red and blue or black and white?
Red and blue.
Correct. It was the time limit for the contenders to navigate the maze.
2 points.
45 seconds or 60 seconds?
60 seconds.
Incorrect. 45 seconds. This was the number of yards featured in the breakthrough portion of Breakthrough and Conquer.
3 points.
10 yards, 15 yards, or 20 yards?
20.
Incorrect. 15 yards. This event had a super version played during Season 4.
2 points.
Swingshot or Powerball?
Powerball.
Correct. How many feet high was the wall?
2 points.
32 feet or 40 feet?
32 feet.
Correct. During the gauntlet, if a contender was pushed out of the side of the gauntlet, what happened?
3 points.
The contender automatically lost, the contender started again from the same spot, or the contender started again from the next gladiator?
Your first answer.
The contender automatically lost?
Yeah.
That's incorrect, and time is up. The correct answer was the contender started again from the same spot. However, you did pick up 6 points this round, which means you have a total of 19 points after round 2.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to round 3, Jim, and you need 11 more points for a victory. The category for round 3 is the Eliminator. These are all questions about the final event of every American Gladiators episode, the Eliminator.
Oh, golly. Okay, go ahead.
75 seconds on the clock. And here comes your first question, Jim. During Season 1, Gladiators threw what at the contenders while they tried crossing the balance beam?
3 points.
Blocking pads, blocking dummies, or medicine balls?
Medicine ball.
Correct. As mentioned by Mike Adamle, how many balls were in the ball pit added in Season 7?
2 points.
Over 10,000 balls or over 100,000 balls?
10,000.
Incorrect, over 100,000 balls. What was the area under the handbike called where gladiators would impose a time penalty if a contender fell?
2 points.
The drop-down ditch or the penalty pit?
Penalty pit.
Correct. What was the only season to feature 2 8-foot walls that contenders had to scale during the course?
3 points.
Season 2, Season 3, or Season 4?
Season 4.
Incorrect, Season 3. For Season 5, what piece of exercise equipment was added as the course's first obstacle?
3 points.
The Versa Climber, the Nordic Track, or the Bowflex Max?
Versa Climber.
Correct. After the Versa Climber, what did the contenders use to go down to the handbike?
3 points.
A slide, a rope, or monkey bars?
Rope.
No, it was a slide, and time is up.
Was I even on this show?
Well, I figured that was going to be the toughest round for you since the Gladiators weren't involved that much in the Eliminator. But still, you did earn 8 points, which means you have a total of 27 points and are only 3 points away from a win with 1 round to go. And let's get to that 4th and final round right now. The category is General American Gladiators Knowledge. So these questions are about anything associated with the original American Gladiators series.
Okay.
75 seconds is on the clock. And remember, Jim, you only need 3 points for the win. And here comes your first question. Good luck. Beginning in Season 3, what symbol was featured on the center cylinder in games of Powerball?
2 points.
A bullseye or a star?
Star.
Correct. Superman actor Dean Cain played college football against which gladiator?
2 points.
Hawk or Nitro?
Nitro.
Incorrect. Hawk. Beginning in Season 5, what was the similarity between the Conquer Circle and the Whiplash Ring?
2 points.
They were the same diameter or they were the same color?
Same color.
Correct. For each point a contender was in the lead by, they received how much of a head start time during the Eliminator?
3 points.
A quarter second, a half second, or 1 second?
1 second.
Incorrect, a half second. Beginning in season 5, instead of a trophy, what did the grand champion receive?
3 points.
The Gladiator Crystal, the Gladiator Plaque, or the Gladiator Belt?
Gladiator Belt.
Incorrect, the Gladiator Crystal. Featured only in season 1, what was the rope swing portion of the Eliminator called?
2 points.
The Swing for Life or the Tarzan Swing?
Swing for life.
Correct, and time is up. You earned 6 points that round, which brings your total to 33 points. Jim Laser Starr, you have won this game of Mental Powerball.
I love it. Oh, yeah.
See, not only are you fantastic at the physical game of Powerball, but you are just as good when playing Mental Powerball.
There you go. Love it.
I hope you had fun playing the game, and I hope all the questions and answers brought back some more Gladiator memories.
It really did. Thank you so very much.
You are very welcome, Jim. And that was the game of the day, Mental Powerball. Mental Powerball. Well, Jim, you have made a dream of mine come true. When I started this show over 5 years ago, one of my goals was to have on as many of the Gladiators as I could. So you saying yes to being my special guest today is truly an absolute honor. So thank you, Jim, for being the third Gladiator to join me on the game show.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's fans like you that hold the show close to their hearts, and you'll be able to watch us a little bit more when the documentary comes out in 2023. So I appreciate people like you. We all do, because without you, there would be no show. Doesn't matter how good we think we are or should be, but without fans like you, there would be no existence of any type of show in the entire country and globally, really. So I want to say thank you for taking the time and wanting to do this. I appreciate it. I had a blast.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to join me on the game show. I had an absolute blast as well. And if you ever want to talk more about American Gladiators with me, or play another American Gladiators themed game, you always have an open invitation, Jim, to be my guest again whenever you want.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it, Bradley.
All right, Jim. Take care. All the best with the American Gladiators documentary, and keep in touch.
I will. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It was my pleasure, Jim. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And before I run up the treadmill and bust through the barrier, it's time for another Bradley Parody. Bradley Parody. This is the segment of the game show in which I create a parody song about an aspect of this episode. And you guessed it, this episode's Bradley Parody is all about the sports competition show, American Gladiators. However, unlike last time when I did an American Gladiators themed parody in which the entire song was about my special guest, Steve Tower Henneberry, this American Gladiators themed Bradley Parody is about one of the show's most popular events. So, to the tune of Kid Rock's 2007 hit song, All Summer Long, here is Bradley Parody number 19, simply titled Powerball. It was 1989 when American Gladiators premiered, a competition like no other before. Contenders, they faced off in the joust and the assault, and the Gladiators did anything to win. Playing human cannonball, the Gladiators all thought this event is clearly not so fair for them. But when it came to the one event with the most physical contact, the Gladiators, they delivered the hits. And when the playing time began, with the whistle and dropped hand, contenders tried to avoid being tackled. Getting past a gladiator and then scoring in a cylinder is how to succeed when you are playing Powerball. Score as many times as you can during Powerball. When 1990 rolled around, the field of play, it was spread out from a semicircle to across the arena floor. But one thing did not change. 3 gladiators contenders faced, and all 3 of them tried to prevent any scores. Whether it's Nitro or it's Blaze, Laser, Gemini, or Lace, contenders tried to avoid being tackled. Getting past a gladiator and then scoring in a cylinder is how to succeed when you are playing Powerball. Score as many times as you can during Powerball.
Score points during Powerball! Yeah!
Now, if a contender's brave and a big risk is what they want to take, they can bypass the outside cylinders. There's more points they can make if they give the gladiators a fake and score a ball in the center cylinder.
Score a ball in the center cylinder!
Whether it's Nitro or it's Blaze, Laser, Gemini, or Lace, contenders try to avoid being tackled. Getting past a gladiator and then scoring in a cylinder is how to succeed when you're playing Powerball. When you get tackled to the ground, or your foot goes out of bounds, or a gladiator pushes you and you fall. Get up and continue on until the 45 seconds is gone. Always give your all when you are playing Powerball. Always give your all when you are playing Powerball. Always give your all when you are playing Powerball. Always give your all when you are playing Powerball. Always give your all when you are playing Powerball. Creating that parody and now listening to it is making me want to put on a spandex uniform and compete in a game of Powerball. And now is this episode's Bradley Parody. Bradley Parody. Well, all the events have been completed, meaning we have reached the end of this episode of the game show. My thanks once again to Jim Starr, Laser on the original American Gladiators series, for being my guest today. Now, as I mentioned earlier, prior to Laser being my special guest on the game show, 2 other gladiators have joined me to talk about their incredible experience on American Gladiators. During episode 31, I got the chance to chat with Lori Fetrick, aka Ice, about her time competing in Gladiator Arena. And on episode 52, I chatted with Steve Henneberry, aka Tower, about his days going up against America's toughest contenders. If you would like to check out Lori Ice Fetrick's episode, Steve Tower Henneberry's episode, or listen to this episode again featuring Jim Laser Starr, all you have to do is log on to www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke. That's BRADLY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. That's www.soundcloud.com/Bradley_Clarke. That's BRADLY_CLARKE/sets/The Game Show. In addition, The Game Show is on YouTube. That's right, you can listen to every single episode, game segment, Bradley Parody, and more by going onto the YouTube channel of The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke. And if you're a loyal friend and true, please remember to like and subscribe. But that's not all. The Game Show can also be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor. Yes, every guest I've interviewed, game I've created, and Bradley Parody I've sung can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor by searching for The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke. And no matter if you're a new fan or a super fan, don't forget to hit that follow or subscribe button. Plus, don't forget to like The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Facebook and follow The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Twitter using the handle @TheGameShowBC and hashtag #TheGameShow. And of course, be sure to tune in next time for another exciting episode of The Talk Show, all about the world of television game and competition shows, The Game Show. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, and I've got to go get ready for my game of Whiplash. My stellar grip strength is definitely going to allow me to own the bone. Bye for now. All of the American Gladiators cuts used during this episode of The Game Show are courtesy of the American Gladiators YouTube channel.
This edition of The Game Show was created and produced by Bradley Clarke. This is Austin Angelo speaking.
The Game Show is a Bradley Clarke production. Get your game on.